Hey y'all, this is Culture Soup, where tech, culture, and business collide. It's a podcast that spoons up everything hot from social media. I'm your host, L. Michelle Smith, and each episode we bring you some of the most notable and not yet notable thought leaders in tech, business, and culture. It's February 14th, Valentine's Day. Whether you believe in love on one day of the year or that it's a manufactured capitalistic ritual that we go through every year, either way, it's Valentine's Day. When I think about Valentine's Day, I think about relationships. We talk about relationships so much on this podcast, there's no way to get around it. But it also makes me think of dating. As you know, I'm a mom in chief. So while I'm very dedicated to my little girl, Joni, and also to my extrapreneurial pursuits and my job, I do make time to be a grown woman. I date. And as you know, you can't be a part of the 21st century if you have not had a brush with online dating. It is definitely where tech, culture, and business collide. With the onset of online dating, you've also seen a lot of online relationship coaches. Well, last year, I actually befriended one. He's my second and only friend that I've befriended on Instagram. His name is Aaron Jordan Jr. and he goes by Mr. Know Your Worth. He's been on national network television. He's written his own book. He has conferences, and he's just an all-around good guy. We discussed online dating and other topics related to relationships as it pertains to the internet. Without further ado, meet my friend, Aaron Jordan Jr. Hey Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I appreciate you for having me on.
Well, you know what? I think you have the honor of being one of my newest friends. And let me tell you why. Yeah, so you're one of my newest friends, and you're one of the rare instances where I have developed a relationship or rapport online. I don't typically do that, and it's funny that I would say that because online dating is like a huge thing. Okay. And that's how people like develop relationships, right?
Yeah.
And so it's rare for me to just, strike up a conversation with somebody on Instagram or wherever and bond over things. But you know what? The thing that I've learned is that this is a conversation between me and my friends, and it's around tech, culture, and business. There are areas of interest that all overlap, and one of them is entrepreneurship. So I think as an entrepreneur, we see each other, right? Yeah. And you're speaking, I'm speaking, you've got a book, I might have one coming down the pike, all of that good stuff. And we end up interacting, right?
Uh-huh.
So let's have our culture soup moment, okay? It's Valentine's Day. It's the day of love. Or as somebody would probably say, it's a manufactured day of love because of retail. But either way you slice it, relationships and the topic of relationships are trending today, as they always are. Have you noticed that relationships are always a hot topic on the internet, on social?
But yeah, I have. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's a lot. It's actually baffling when you think about it. When you go into the whole cliche of Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So, when did you realize that the internet might be ripe and ready for a voice like yours? Was it because you saw a lot of conversations about relationships?
No, I mean the thing about it is that the way the world has turned is that a lot of people create their platform in various different ways, and unfortunately, social media and the internet has been a tool for people to build a platform that has a voice. And so, one thing that I've noticed that is that I'm a marketer. My background is marketing. And so, one thing that I've noticed is the quickest way to brand yourself and to get your message out there is through the internet, social media.
Mm-hmm.
When I started about 7 years ago, Facebook was just really coming on the scene and things of that nature. As far as me doing videos and things like that, just putting it up on social media, and just being able to connect with people that's not right there in front of you, but have an impact on their lives thousands of miles away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was amazing.
That's awesome. So tell me how
Yeah.
you got started. You're a relationship coach, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And tell me how you got started. Your background's in marketing, but how'd you get all the way up to being a modern day hitch?
So I think that what I tell people is that your story is not meant for you; it's meant for others. And so, just like anybody else, I've had a story. I've went through those highs and lows in my life. I went through those highs and lows in relationships, and I went through those highs and lows in my personal development in life. So from that, I was in a very dark place. I was in a very dark place mentally. What people don't understand is that relationships are more spiritual than it is physical. A lot of people get so wrapped up in the physical component of relationships when it has a lot to do with the spiritual aspect. And so the thing is that I was hurt. I was broken, and I haven't dealt with, at that time, I haven't dealt with my issues. And so in that, it put me in this very dark space. And so at that time, I didn't have anyone talking to me or that I could go to get that advice or to pull me out of that dark space. And so it was one of those moments where I had to have a come to Jesus moment, with who I was, who I am, and what I am when it comes to not just only in relationships, but in personal development and as a man, period.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you had this breakthrough. You were in a dark place, and then something said, "Gee, start telling people about relationships. Come on, connect the dots a little bit more. Tell me more."
So I used to always get asked the male opinion or the male point of view by women on certain things. And I'm very unbiased. I speak from a very unbiased standpoint when it comes to this topic, on dating, relationships, and love. And so from that, I saw the impact that it was having on people. And then also just looking at the fact of how I got out of my situations, my dark moments, my moments of having those suicidal moments, or my moments of dealing with rejection and abandonment. My thing is that if I was dealing with this, I'm pretty sure other people are dealing with it as well. But do they have an authentic voice to where a person can actually help them? So one thing led to where I started writing my thoughts and my feelings and my principles and how I dealt with things. I just started writing it out. And then me writing that out led to a 10-chapter book. But before I published it, I was actually holding little Q&As, little seminars and things of that nature. And then from there it expanded. And it did a real good job.
So your book, is that what was the catalyst for you doing some national television? Because I think you've done some national TV, right?
Yes, I have. So, I mean, what people don't understand is when you write a book, that opens up the door for a lot of things. And, me, of course, being in that marketing space, I wanted to figure out how to capitalize on getting the message out there, not per se looking at the fact of, okay, well, if I do this, I'm gonna make this amount of money, but looking at the fact of saying, like, how many people can I touch with this message? So that was the marketing standpoint that I had from it. And so I just marketed myself as as that coach, as that relationship guy. And then when people caught on to it and caught on to the message because it was authentic, it attracted a lot of people. A lot of people in the industry, as far as in radio and TV, as far as doing interviews and things of that nature.
So tell us about the book. What's it called? And what's it about?
The book is called The Power Within.
Oh, there it
Woman's
is.
Worth from Both Sexes.
All right.
So I was very strategic with the title, or with the title of the book, and it was a title that actually made people think. Because when you look at the title, it's like, okay, well, so from both sexes. So how can you speak from both sexes' standpoint? So the thing about it is, when you I give off principles in this book that help people to understand, 1, who they are, 2, whose they are, 3, what they are when it comes to relationships, when it comes to dating, when it comes to just being an individual before getting into that relationship or going on to the next. Because if you think about it, what happens is people typically use other people to get over another person, which causes you to be what I call emotionally schizophrenic, because you're dealing with emotions on top of emotion, on top of emotions, on top of emotions. Does that make sense? And so in that, when you don't give yourself enough time to heal, you accept and you settle for anything. So I use this example. So if you haven't gotten over your ex or your past relationship or that hurt, what you're going to do is you're going to attract the very same thing into your life that you left. But the thing about it is going to be dressed up differently, and it's going to be that much. It's going to be 10 times detrimental than what you just left.
This is real wisdom. So where do you glean your wisdom? Do you cite other sources, or is this something that you cultivated over time? Mm-hmm. How did you come to these nuggets of wisdom?
Well, I don't want to infringe on anyone's religion or anything like that, or their religious beliefs.
I believe in Jesus here, so you can talk about Jesus if you want to.
So I'm a Christian. So
okay.
And at that time, when I was going through a lot of my depression moments and my dark moments, and I was going through that second suicide attempt, he spoke to me, and so he asked me, he said, if you take your life, who's going to impact the people that I have for you to impact? Who's going to carry out that work? Who's going to be that pillar that I have for you to carry out this work? So in that, at that moment, I raised my hand. I just said, man, I accept. And so when I was writing, everything that was in this book poured from me. It was like it was someone speaking through me. And I'm not trying to turn this into a whole churchy thing, but he spoke through me to deliver the words in this book.
Let me stop you right there.
I just want to let you know I've done a lot of interviews. So
this is the Culture Soup podcast, okay? Whatever's in you, we want to hear about it. And we are Jesus friendly here, okay? Okay, go for it.
Okay. But so the thing is at that point when I accepted the purpose, I accepted the calling, I accepted the gift per se, and I started writing. It flowed. He spoke, and it just translated in the words that thousands of people have read. And so, and I tell people, it wasn't me. It wasn't me that formulated those analogies. It wasn't me that formulated that thought process in that delivery. So, and when I say that, and people say, okay, well, you had a ghostwriter. Well, no, I mean, I wrote the book. But if you're tapped into your spiritual being and you're tapped into who's your source, then you'll understand what I'm saying when I say that it wasn't me that actually wrote that book.
So it's divinely inspired. So is the worldview that you take in your approach to relationships from a Christian standpoint? Is it Christian dating advice?
So what I do is I take the spiritual and the practical, and I put it together and I make it make sense. Because the thing is what I've noticed is that when certain people give relationship advice, everything that we do comes from the Word, and is nothing null and void under the sun. So when I deliver it, I give practical advice, but also I tie it in with the spiritual, and I make it mesh together, and it's like a aha moment.
So you're married, right?
Yes.
Yes.
6 years.
6 years. Good for you.
6 years, May 7th.
So put that on the timeline. When did you get married? When did you write the book?
Well, I got married actually May 7th of 2013. I finished a rough draft of the book in 2012, actually, and it was around about maybe August, September of 2012. I finished the book, got it published. It was around November of 2012. I did my first tour coming into 2013 before we got married. Went to about 7 different cities. Then after that, I started marketing. I started blasting the book. Then in 2014, I got picked up by a publisher, and it redrafted the book as far as in 2014. And in 2017, I finished the second edition of the book, which is this one that you see here. Let me just put it like it's a teleprompter. But no, in 2017, I finished that. I added more content, and I put 2 case studies. Okay. Actually, to bring everything home and to tie the principles in to real life scenarios to people that I've advised.
Did you use any of those tenets in your dating and marrying your wife? That's what everybody wants to know.
Well, see, if my wife is standing right here right now, she'll say I got the story all wrong, but I have a photographic memory. See, me and my wife, we went to high school together, and we tried to date a little after high school. Of course, at that time, I messed up. I'm not going to lie about that. Young and dumb, but in that time, she left and she went to Nashville. I was here in Memphis. I was there in Memphis, Tennessee. But in that time, to make a long story short, 7 years went by. 7 years. And so in that time frame of 7 years, I lived life. I matured. I had my daughter, which is one of the most powerful things that ever happened to me in my life. And during that time, I grew up and things of that nature. But I tell people that I wasn't ready at that time for the woman that she was. I wasn't mentally ready. So I had to mentally catch up to where she was at 18 years old. Now she's 25 plus. I'm not going to tell her age.
Okay, please don't. And don't have her mad at me broadcasting it.
No, but I had to really dig deep, because those mistakes that I made pushed me 7 to 8 years away from my God's gift. And I tell people that you have to understand the dynamics of relationship. It's more spiritual than it is physical. So everything that you do, you have to reap it, whether it's good or bad. So in that instance, in the instance of when I caused more hurt and I caused all the pain, and I had to reciprocate. I had to receive all that back. So I had to learn my lessons, and karma, as people say, it'll knock you on your tail.
Yeah, reaping and sowing is what the word calls it. So, there are people right now who it's Valentine's Day, and it's the day of love and couples and all that good stuff. What do you have to say to the single woman or man that is out there and thinking, I don't have a date tonight? If somebody says Valentine's to me one more time, I might just have to punch them in the throat. What do you have to say to them about being in that state of mind on Valentine's Day?
Well, I think though that a lot of people get caught up in the whole fact of Valentine's Day because of the fact that the world says that's a love day. But even after that day, if you still haven't done the necessary work on yourself, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, you're still going to be the same even after that day. And so I tell people, I said, focus on getting back to the point of loving you. Make love to yourself, not literally, but just get to the point of understanding your value, your worth, your who you are as a person. Because the thing is, we all have hurt, we all have pain that we have to deal with. But the thing is that you have to be able to release that energy from yourself before you get into a relationship with somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I really try to have people to hone on that than per se the Valentine's Day itself. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're really just saying that Valentine's Day is just one day. You need to get a little bit of perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to know your worth. Did I pick up on that? Worth. Yes, know your worth. And understand that you are worthy of the love. And the only way that you can be worthy is to start to love yourself. That's what I picked up on.
Exactly. See, the thing is that people that I tell people the law of attraction is a very powerful thing. What dominates your thoughts the most is what you'll attract into your life. So if you're constantly thinking about the hurt, and you're constantly thinking about the pain, the rejection, or the molestation that you've experienced over your life, that stuff follows you. It's not going to go away just for one day because that's quote unquote love day. But the thing is, you have to sit there and sit at the table and deal with that stuff. And that's one thing that people are not.
Well, and that's interesting you bring that up because you're talking about dealing with that as an individual. But I've been reading about soul ties. And I'm wondering if what you just said, if you still have this darkness in your life and still depressed about things that have happened, or at least, I don't want to get into medical depression, but if you're still hanging on to the bad things that happened before, you can take that into another relationship. I mean, that theory really is around soul ties, right?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And with soul ties, is basically you carrying those emotions from your past relationships on to the next because you haven't dealt with those issues. See, the thing is, that's why I say relationships are more spiritual than it is physical. It has a more subconscious effect.
So tell me this. If I have sunshine in my life and someone starts to court me, date me, whatever, and they have some dark clouds in their life that they haven't dealt with, is it possible for them to pass along their dark clouds to me?
Exactly.
Or, some people would think just the exact opposite. If that person brought their dark clouds, my sunshine would overpower their dark clouds. But I tend to think it's just the opposite. What do you say?
But see, if you're at a space in your life where you're happy and you've dealt with your issues, but you get with someone that's quite not always there themselves, and they're looking for mental healing. They're looking for spiritual healing. They're looking for just healing within themselves. And they haven't dealt with their issues themselves. You can easily be sucked in and brought to a point where you're on their level. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you why. Because there's a thing that's called triggers. Triggers is brought to you by the universe. The universe has a way of testing us when we think when we think we've moved on. Okay, and it's to a point where it's always testing us to see where we are. And the thing about it is, if you truly have not dealt with your issues or the things that have caused you to hurt, somebody else that has even more hurt than you can come in and really bring you to their level or even lower. So I really tell people, really dominate your thoughts on what you're attracting to your life.
Do you believe that people are aware that they're broken? Or is it that many times we aren't aware that we are broken?
It's probably not aware, but more so in denial, because we like to save face. We like to... we don't like to sit at the table of our hurt, so we like to mask it. And when I say mask it, meaning we like to use other people. We like to use other people to project our pain. So when we use other people to project our pain, that's a temporary fix. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound where you need about 15 to
So it's possible that people are using other people as Band-Aids.
Yeah.
And they may not even be aware that they're doing it.
Nope.
It's just a tendency because they're broken.
It's a tendency because they fall back into what I call learned behaviors. See, when you're at that point of you're dealing with your own stuff, it's very uncomfortable. So when you get uncomfortable, what do? You go back to what you know, which is your learned behaviors. And so they try to hide it and try to mask it.
Let's turn to online dating. Social media is culture soup.
Yep.
Apps are culture soup.
Yeah.
What is your take on online dating? I mean, your approach is grounded in the word. It sounds like. And the last time I talked to my pastor about this, he was telling me back in 2009 that like 1 in every 3 couples that came in and said that they were getting married and needed counseling met online. So where are we with this?
Well, I think with online dating, you can actually meet some interesting people, but I think everything, no matter if it's online or in person, it still have a common denominator. It still have that common ground. You have to still be aware of who you are in order for what you attract. So even with online dating, I mean, that's still a representation until you actually sit down in front of that person. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
And so when you sit down in front of that person, now if you still have things going on in your chamber or in your closet, that representation, you'll fall for it instead of actually digging deep and getting past the representation and the outer and really digging in deep and saying like, okay, what is it that I really want? You have to ask yourself those questions. A lot of people are still stuck in their comfort zone and saying, okay, well, that's what I'm normally attracted to, so let me give that a try. That's what I'm used to. Let me give that a try. So I think you can still meet some interesting people online. Before I got married years ago or whatever, I was on online.
Most men are really
well.
comfortable with it. I think there are lots of women that probably are, but there are a lot of women that are not, and primarily because people catfish, people don't tell the truth, they misrepresent themselves, and there's always a safety issue too. Do you have tips for people who are turning to online dating? And I'm thinking outside of safety. I mean, the obvious thing there is don't give away your money,
Exactly.
check them out, run the Google search, do some background checks, all that good stuff. But when it comes to trying to find a relationship, not even, I'm just going to swipe right and hook up with somebody. Do you have like grounded tips for people who are dating in the 21st century? And a part of that is online dating.
Well, I think one thing you have to do is just look at where you are in your life, and then you can make your assessments from there. When I say look at where you are in your life, if you see that you're in your life where you're at this particular place and you're at a standard, I think that people should not lower their standard to just say, okay, well, I haven't dated in a while, so let me just bring it down just a little bit, and I'm going to see what he's talking about. Still keep that same standard, but I think you'll be able to find what you're looking for with some people. It goes around. I still think it goes around with standards. It's still keep your standards. A lot of people lower their standards when it comes to online dating, just to appease.
And let's be clear on what you're saying. Standards are.
Okay.
What do you mean by standards?
When I say standards, and I mean, if you know that your non-negotiables are this here, or your deal breakers are high up here, and this person here is online, shows you representation, and you say your deal breaker is smoking, but you say, okay, well, he looks good, he has a nice job, I see he says a smoker right there.
And you still take a date.
And you still go But when you meet up with that person, that's Uncle Joe that used to sit on the park on a porch at the house somewhere. See, that means you lowered your standard.
Yeah, you did a lot of things there.
You did a lot.
You got smoking pawpaw.
Exactly. So I think you still take the same approach as when you're physically meeting someone, but you be more meticulous and strategic about it.
Okay. What projects you got coming up that you could talk about?
Well, I'm working on my third book. It's called the Dating Devotional, a 60-day guide to revamping your thoughts on dating. I'm working on that. Hopefully, it'll be released, be done by Valentine's Day. Gearing up for my 2019 tour that starts in March of 2019, and then also gearing up for my podcast. My radio show is coming back, but it's going to be in the form of a podcast.
And what radio station have you been on?
The radio station I've been on 760 AM The Gospel. That's here, based out of Nashville. I've had a blog talk show that had over 50,000 listeners.
Wow. What happened? Why'd you give them up?
Me and my partner out of Chicago, I was co-hosting it with someone, and he wanted to do other business ventures, so that led me from going. So what'd
you do with those 50,000 listeners? Like, where'd they go?
Oh, that's an email database.
Okay,
they
good,
follow me online, and everything like that, and yeah. So I still have those followers. Oh yeah, most definitely. And so then after 760, I got picked up by a bigger station here in the area. And what I did with when I was on 760 was an AM station, so it didn't have a lot of frequency too, as well as it was a gospel station. So what I did is that I recorded. We did a live show in Nashville, but I had them to record my show. But I had my show broadcast in Florida, like 4 counties in Florida. Then I had my show broadcast in Augusta, Georgia, and Atlanta, and up in Chicago.
That's good.
And I was working on Dallas. So all in all, from those strategic efforts and those marketing efforts, I had about 1.5 million listeners just in those efforts there. And then so I got picked up by a bigger station that was here in Nashville. That was more of a regional station. It was called 101 The Light. Very successful show. But the station changed their platform.
It happens. A lot of that's going on these days. All right.
Yeah.
So, and don't you have something coming up in the fall, in October?
Oh yeah. My women's conference is in October. I can't release who the keynote's going to be, but I tell people keep sleeping on me.
Well, we're not going to sleep on you, Mr. Know Your Worth.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Where can we find you online? Yeah. Where can people follow you?
You can actually go to my website, AaronJordanJr.com. Then I'm on Instagram at Mr. Know Your Worth, on Twitter at Aaron Jordan, Facebook, Arthur Aaron Jordan Jr., or just Google me and all that information.
All right, and if I recall, you're a Sigma, aren't you?
Come on now, to the day I die.
Shout out to your brothers out there.
To the day I die.
Wow. All right, then. I appreciate it so much.
No problem. I appreciate you for having me.
You take care. So there you have it, from the relationship coach, author, speaker, Mr. Know Your Worth, Aaron Jordan. Now, we're 2 days out from February 16th, where we will be having our second masterclass live on the 30-Minute Mentor. Go to the30minutementor.com, sign up. Make sure you do. It's personal branding, leveraging it for maximum impact. I'd like to welcome the Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League Young Professionals along for this masterclass. And if you want to be a part, make sure that you tune in. And then also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The Culture Soup, and log on and subscribe at theculturesoup.com. Until next week, we've got life strategist, life coach, best-selling author, Valerie Burton. See you online. The Culture Soup Podcast is a production of No Silos Communication.